Hello, I am continuing my Canadian short story project where I am going through stories that have been curated by Kevin Hardcastle. 73 short stories to read while you're during the pandemic. And not all of them are short stories. Some of them are novel excerpts that I'm missing. Some of them have since I've first seen the list have kind of gone behind paywall, so I'll miss them. Some of them are just formatted so terribly that I can't easily put them on my Kindle here, so I skip them. So that narrows it down, but it still gives me like about 50 short stories to get through. Canadian short stories, which, as a Canadian, I don't read a lot of Canadian fiction, or at least it feels like, relatively speaking. I read a lot of American, I read a lot of British, and I'm trying to get back into reading a bit more Canadian. And a part of that reason, the reason I don't read Canadian, in the past at least, has been because if anyone becomes a successful author in Canada, then it seems to become very hard to get honest. It was very hard back in the day to get honest reviews of their books, because there was no internet and you were depending on newspapers who would give this assignment out to someone who had to live in the same system, the same general little fish pond with the rest of the Canadian writers, and it was hard to get kind of the straight goods of, hey, you know what, this Timothy Finley novel, not that great. He may be the respected old man of Canadian letters at that point, very well beloved and really awesome guy to talk to, but yeah, novels not so hot really. So I kind of didn't read a lot of Canadian stuff because there just wasn't enough of a good conversation going on for me to be able to distinguish what was and what wasn't. That, and a lot of times in Canadian fiction, you get a lot of eat your oatmeal kind of fiction. At least it feels that way. So, that said, let me just get on to the story today after doing that, which is Don't Come In Here by Andrew Hood. This comes from www.thecoast.ca. And yeah, so it's a short little slice of life story. It is one of those ones that's like, it very much, it cuts off at a certain point to kind of make the reader decide on what the ending is, or to kind of leave that lingering question there. I think it does a fairly reasonably good job at that. Now I will get into all the spoilers of the story. So this is all about Uncle Greg, who has come to live in the narrator's house. Uh, what is it? Pig? He calls him. Uh, Greg has come into the house because he's theoretically he has hurt his back while delivering stuff, and he's waiting for the big case to get settled. He's going to take the lady, take the people to the cleaners, to get to get lots of money. That's his grand scheme. And he's basically taken over the house. He's in the spare room that's got the computer in it, which, you know, you can tell when this story is set, because it's set when there was only one computer in the house, and not like one in everybody's pockets. There's only one computer in the house, and so if the narrator wants to get to it, that's, he has to knock on the door, because Uncle Greg leaves the door shut and locked, and oftentimes he'd knock to do it, and Uncle Greg will say, "Don't come in. I'm wrapping your Christmas presents." And he's like, okay, fine. And then finally he would come out, and then he would hog the TV for the rest of the night. Now, as the story goes along, Uncle Greg, it turns out, was in cahoots with the people's daughter. The daughter had iced the walk beforehand, so that they could stage the accident. So that got tossed out, and Uncle Greg became the example of, you don't want to turn out like Uncle Greg, do you? And the narrator's just like, well, I don't even know if even Uncle Greg meant to turn out like Uncle Greg. It's not something that you choose. It's just sort of something that happens to you. Though if you're a person like Uncle Greg, I think it happens a lot easier. And the story ends with Christmas, and they're opening all the presents. Uncle Greg isn't getting any presents because he's getting room and board. He's leeching off of this mother and son. There doesn't seem to be a father involved in the picture. Uncle Greg lives in the spare bedroom that has a bunch of the narrator's sister's old clothes in it, which his mom can't bear to throw away, which makes me think that something bad happened to the daughter, because if the daughter had just simply moved out, I don't think it would have the sentimental attachment that it would if maybe daughter didn't live. But so they're unwrapping presents. Uncle Greg doesn't have any presents, and like, oh, okay, I guess, mother's like, okay, I guess I'm gonna clean up, because you get the sense that, yeah, she probably does all the cleaning up and Uncle Greg doesn't do jack shit. And they get to say, oh, Uncle Greg's like, oh, there's one more present, and indeed there is one more present, kind of patchily thing. It's like it's a long shape, doesn't rattle, and it's for him from To Pickle Dick, love Greg. And we end the story with the narrator opening the present, but we never get to see what it is. And it ends with the lines of, he grinned and shrugged and bulged his eyes at me, and he kept smiling as I dissembled his rap job, looking excited, like he himself couldn't wait to find out what he'd gotten me. Which is like, what had he gotten him? It's probably something crappy, but there's maybe that hope, that hope that he was actually going to be a decent human being here, but most likely it's going to be another lame joke. Like maybe it's going to be the remote control or something like that. You can see, but there's that kind of thing of expectation. Like, what has he got me? And it's like, maybe there's a thing of like, is the narrator going to turn out like Uncle Greg? There's a don't come in here. It's like, don't come into my life. Don't come into who I am. So it's a slight story, but actually, as I kind of sat with it just overnight, it's like, oh, okay, that actually, it kind of opens up fairly nicely into a story about kind of a young narrator and influences on your life, and you're going to let that influence into your life. All right, I will leave it there and head off with my day.